Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it's me, Professor Hamamoto, on October 1st, year 2023, the first day of the month, right? It's around 5 p.m. Pacific time. I had a dual purpose for going uh, live with you on the video. This is for patrons only. I just want to express, number one, my gratitude for your continuing support of my efforts here. As you've noted, I've been absent from YouTube for a while. Maybe I'll make it permanent because after 2.5, 3 years of YouTube, I don't seem to be making much progress there. So why not devote my full creative energies to those of you who value it, right? And the reverse is true. I value your input, your insights, and your comments are typically quite interesting. Some of them sometimes provocative. But anyway, I'll make this one quick today because I really don't even know if I have the mechanics correct in relocating my studio. My original studio was not much to sneeze at anyway, but now I'm just using the computer and it's not even a reliable connection, I think so. I'll have to keep it short. In fact, this is my second take. The first take, I messed up on the audio, but that's okay. It's like a run through a rehearsal. Anyway, and the second purpose of this talk here is not just to thank you for your support over these past few months, but also to acknowledge the fact that not all of these entities that we're exposed to are bad, right? I've had experience with the health system recently, and it radically changed my understanding of what it is. A lot of what we're hearing, and even especially the indie news, is a lot of fear mongering. So I think as I move forward, as I relocate and get reestablished, I'm going to start demythologizing a lot of the fear tactics, psychology that um, that fuel so-called indie media, all the way from the big boys to the very, all the way to the wannabes, right? And in a way, and I've talked to friends and colleagues about this, in a way, they're worse than what CNN or Fox News represents, because at least we know what their agenda is, right? So toward that end, I'm going to depart from the curmudgeonly, everything sucks and we're doomed and the new world order is going to take over and the Rothschilds are own us forever and we'll never escape our slavery, right? We hear this ad nauseum and I'm tired of it. I think it made me ill. I think it physically got to me, right? I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The psychology is very important in maintaining the type of strength we need in order to push our human agenda forward, right? And when we find out that there are those that are working against us who are ostensibly on our side, then we have to change course. Otherwise, we'd be classified as insane. We're looking for a different outcome. It's not going to happen. It's going to just be more fear, more anxiety, right? It sells storable foods. What can I say? I mean, I've been suckered into it. I'm not saying storable foods are unessential. I think they're important. But so I understand the psychology because I've lived through the past 10 years like you, which has really intensified. And especially over the past 2.5 years, going on 3 years, where we're still trying to work out what hit us from a sociological standpoint. I have a good idea, and we've heard enough of that, but that's not today's talk. So today I wanted to pay homage, if that's not too grandiloquent a term, to at least one corporation, inadvertently or not. I don't know. I don't think they have an altruistic motivation like most corporations. But I would like to credit this company for being instrumental in helping people like me who are scholars of film, especially those of classic vintage. By that I mean 30s through the 50s and 60s, the 60s and 70s, 80s, of course, beyond. They're pretty easy to acquire. But as I was a beginning film and media scholar and student, I had just like everybody else, an almost impossible time in accessing this material. The only way you could do it is if you were a curator at a museum, the Museum of Modern Art. Universities had archives sometimes. I remember when I went to Bowling Green State University in 1976, they had an incredible radio, film, television archive. And I said, wow, people keep this material and they're studying it and they take it seriously. And that allowed me to access all this material that I later wrote about professionally. Okay, but this talk is not about me specifically. It's about how a company, inadvertently or not, called Netflix for 20 years has been providing almost the entire catalog of American and international cinema. I say international because that was one of the big attractions to me of Netflix is its foreign language films. They had a separate category for each language group. And I personally first got intrigued by the idea of film study by reading the histories written by one Donald Ritchie, Ritchie. And I said, wow, you can study cinema, you can study film. It has a history. There are these characters here. They cross-influence each other. Kurosawa influences Ford. Kurosawa or Ford influences Kurosawa. Kurosawa influences George Lucas. And it shapes the culture and the society, obviously. But I might drop out. It's not good here yet. The other studio was hardwired, so I rarely had any problems with dropouts. But Don Ritchie he was a film scholar at Columbia University. He was designated as the post-war 1940s, 1950s scholar to kind of rehabilitate Japan through its cinema. All right. So that was a big advantage. And then he shared that privilege vantage point with us. But now we could go right to it ourselves, right? So it was really Netflix, and it was around, and I didn't realize how much time had passed, about 20 years, that this new model of sending DVDs through the mail revolutionized the distribution of DVDs, and now that's gone. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm having some internet connections, and hopefully you'll bear with me. I'm going to try to keep it short for reasons I've already explained. A lot of traffic at this time of day. Anyway, I just wanted to give credit to Netflix for having the foresight to include this incredible library, this archive of cinema, and to a lesser extent television shows. Now, a lot of the material the original material, I'm not very impressed with it. Most of it's what in Yiddish is called Dreck, but that's true about any type of culture production down through the ages. So I'm just trying to say, okay, corporations, bad. Yeah, all right. But what services do they and advantages and the net contributions do they make society, right? That is the true measure, the true metric of what a public corporation should be, not something that's been devised by some characters at the university who are extorting large companies for some kind of brownie points that they're trying to make. Netflix did it organically, from what I can tell. I don't think there was a cynical decision to say, yeah, we're going to bring all the great film from the, the incredible innovations coming from China, right, in film, beginning in the 70s, maybe a little bit earlier, or new developments in independent cinema in America, here in the US, and other parts of the world. America is, we make the bulk of this material, but we're just a smaller part of the larger human experience. And most of the Patreon people understand this, but we want to understand as much of it as we can in our limited capacity. And film has always been a really important portal. And toward that end, you might, if you're of an academic bent, check out books like this. Some of the scholars are just trying to figure out what happened, what's going on here, what's going to happen. The network television model is long dead. I had to come to grips with that because that's what I was raised with, and that's how I studied, and that's how I viewed it. So, and that brings me to my final point before I get cut off here again, is that we have a lot to look forward to. And then more importantly, as you and me, we have an important role in shaping the new media environment, right? None of this material that we're being forced fed, and they call it streaming, right, or curated, do we have to accept. We have our own imagination. We have our own human experiences. There are regional differences in America. There's national differences, as we know. Typically, it's come down through the written word, literature, and poetry. But of course, the moving image revolutionized that and kind of flattened it out, which makes it far more interesting, I think. And that technology is more available to what used to be called the developing world or the third world. And it was Netflix that distributed these to people like me. Maybe they weren't the most in demand titles, but they still carried them. So in a way, they were subsidizing this output by buying these DVDs and mailing them out. So I just want to tip my hat to Reed Hastings and his partner. I forgot his name, but you know the story. It's been written about over and over again. The Silicon Valley wonder kids who came up with this new model that destroyed Blockbuster, and now we're heading into a new brave world of unlimited quote unquote content. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we'll find out, won't we? Anyway, thanks again, Patronistas. I hope this jerry-rigged sort of presentation here goes through here, but I wanted to let you know that I'll be a presence once more very soon once I get myself reestablished here. If anything, I hope to bring a far new and more nuanced perspectives to what's going on in the world, the culture, and society. It's going to be one that no longer takes its talking points by the fear mongers out there, which was how I started this cast here. No more fear mongering. Yeah, we're going to be realistic about the threats that face us. But when fear in itself becomes a commodity that all these pop-up pundits are just promulgating, hey, that's pretty good alliteration, then it becomes not just counterproductive, it becomes destructive. And I don't want to be a part of that. All right. So that's part of the reason for my sabbatical. Okay. Thank you very much again. I hope to see you soon, God willing. And again, Patronistas, thanks so much. Bye.